You know, I have to tell you, today my sister-in-law is getting married, and yeah, in just a few minutes. Okay. Today's my sister-in-law is getting married, and what I've realized, and what was a struggle for me, is on Thursday night I had to go back into an area that I spent a lot of my life in. That I was at the Moose Lodge. And that was a struggle for me, having owned a nightclub and going back in there into the bar scene because they were having the bachelor party there, and it is my brother-in-law. Just a minute. Okay. So it was. Sometimes it's just so irritating. So anyway, it was a real struggle, but I kept asking God to show me. In the middle of that, I'm looking at these people, and they're just sitting around, and they're doing the same thing that I saw myself and so many people doing so much of my life. And I had to think, God, what are you trying to show me here? What can I see in the middle of this? Because all I saw was a bunch of people. Saw a bunch of people that didn't really have anything to do. That was their joy. That was the excitement. That was their happiness. And I looked and I thought, man, if I'd stayed where I was, it could have been so different. I could be there. I could be sitting there. And it just kind of all stirred me up inside. And I think I don't listen so much of the time when God wants to interrupt me. And I think He wants me to see things. And I think He wants me to hear things that He has to say. But I'm so busy just ignoring things and ignoring people that are around me, that when He's speaking, whether it's through somebody else or whether He wants to show me something, I'm too focused on my plan and what I want to do. You ever been there? You understand what that's like? What? Okay.
When God speaks to us, He speaks to us softly to get our attention and to interrupt our lives from what we're currently doing. Now, there's several ways He can speak to us. It could be through prayer, through His Word, through other people, through songs. Now, back before, when God would interrupt my life, the first things I would say or think are, why? Why now? My response always was, I don't have time. This isn't for me. Let somebody else do it. My life was very busy, and I just didn't have time for anything else. I couldn't include anything else in my life. Now, since then, I've come to appreciate God's interruptions. Now, recently, on our way back from Nepal, we were on a flight from Kathmandu to Doha. It's about a 4 or 5 hour flight. And I was able to sit next to a woman from Nepal, and she appeared to be Hindu. I was tired. I wanted to rest. I didn't feel good, but I knew this was one of God's appointments. But I had in the back of my head, well, I'll just ask her if she knows about God, and then I'll go to sleep. I'll get 3 or 4 hours of sleep. But instead, I listened to God. And by doing that, I built friendship with her. It turns out that she actually is a Christ follower. She's from Nepal. She's newly married. She was on her way to Scotland to be with her husband. And when she got to meet her husband, she was going to share Christ with him. He's Hindu. Now, Dave, one of the guys that went with us to Nepal, had a tract. And it was about Jesus written in Nepali. So that was huge. We were able to give that to her, and she could take that along with her testimony to her husband. And we also knew that we needed to pray for her and her husband, and we did. And it was exciting how God unfolded things when I listened. And when God interrupts us, it's always for, it turns out good. It's always for good. And in Romans 8:28, we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who've been called according to his purpose. Now, I do have a couple of examples of major life interruptions. The first one's in Genesis 12:1. God is speaking softly. Now, this is, the Lord had said to Abram, leave your country, your people, and your father's household, and go to the land I will show you. Speaking softly. He didn't have to do a lot of interruptions. Now, the next one is in Acts. And this is about Paul before his name was changed, so it's about Saul. And it's Acts 9:3-8. As he neared Damascus on his journey, suddenly a light from heaven flashed around him. He fell to the ground and heard a voice say to him, Saul, Saul, why do you persecute me? Who are you, Lord? Saul asked. I'm Jesus, whom you're persecuting, he replied. Now get up, go into the city, and you'll be told what you must do there. Now, those were two different extremes on how God can speak to us. When he initially speaks to us, if we don't answer him, we don't acknowledge him, he gets a little louder. And again, if we ignore him, he gets even louder. Now, I asked God to interrupt my life. I asked him to show me what he had going on around me and allow me to participate in that to his glory.